Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tutorials, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can insert something into the database using both React and Meteor. So let's get going right now. Okay, so what we want to do now is add an insert form. Now, before we do this, I'm going to go ahead and add a new package to our application here. We'll just head to our packages file that's in Sublime Text. And in .meteor, we can head to packages, and let's scroll all the way to the bottom here, and let's add a new package. This is going to be a package that I use on pretty much every project, and I definitely have to recommend it. What we want is Meteor Toys. We can type in Meteor Toys : all things. All things is a package by Meteor Toys which contains all of the Meteor toys. Now these things allow us some pretty cool stuff. We can see that this package is in fact working on our site by heading back to our site and hitting Control M. I'll wait for this to reload. Okay, so now we can hit Control M. And as you see, we now have JetSetter, which tracks our Meteor session variables, and Mongo, which actually tracks our subscription, our database information. So if we were to add a user account or add a new collection into our MongoDB, we would actually be able to see that being added right here in Mongo. The best part is you can always hit Control M to hide them. I use this all the time. Just to even know what's being published. Obviously, because we have these packages right now, we have in packages auto publish and insecure in here. These are two prototyping packages. We don't have to worry too much about publications just yet, but we'll be getting to that later in this series. So now let's head to our application in app.js. You can see we have our hello world, and let's go ahead and first thing we want to do is create a new collection. Now a collection is going to be basically where we're storing our data in our database, and we can do that through resolutions, which is going to be the name of our collection, is going to equal a new mongo.collection. Now this is going to be in quotes. We're going to have resolutions. Okay? So our new collection is going to be resolutions. Now if we head back to our app, we do Command M. Obviously we don't have any resolutions, so we don't see anything yet. So let's go ahead and write a form. Now this is going to change a little bit. Like I said, this app.jsx isn't totally correct right now. We're going to be doing some work with a new package called Tracker React to be able to bring in our actual data. But as you can see right now, we have resolutions defined as a new Mongo collection. Let's go ahead and inside of our React component, let's go ahead and make, first, let's add a div around this hello world, just because we need a wrapper. Okay, and let's wrap that div off like so. And now what we need is, we need a form. We have this hello world, which we want to change to something like, let's have hello world now be my resolutions. Okay, so we have my resolutions, and we want a form now. So we can say form, and let's close this form off. And really what we need to do is have a class name on the form, which is going to be new resolution. Now keep in mind, I have styles for these. I'll be able to give you those in another video here. So don't worry about this looking terrible right now. It's gonna look much better. And then we're going to have inside of here, we're going to have just an input text box where we can say input type is equal to text, and we're going to have what's called a ref, R-E-F. Now, ref is going to be how we're going to be able to refer to this input box. So we can just add this simply as resolution. And now let's go and add a placeholder. I'm going to actually add put these on a new line here. This is just sort of a code style thing. Once you get a few of these properties deep, it sort of becomes annoying to have them just be a long chain, especially when I have the text size bumped up here. So we can now have a placeholder be equal to something like finish React Meteor series. Now let's go ahead and wrap this up with a / and then greater than to close out that input tag. Remember, you need the / or else React is going to complain. So let's head to our page. And as you can see, we have my resolutions and we have this form here. Obviously, nothing happens if we type into this and hit enter, refreshes the page, but other than that, nothing. Obviously, what we want this to do is submit this into our database, so when we hit something like Control M, we will see this populate our resolutions. What's interesting now is that after a refresh, an actual hard refresh here, resolutions does appear in our Mongo, and you'll notice when I click it, it opens this up nice and big. We can actually insert and edit documents directly in here from our database. So one of the reasons why Meteor Tools is amazing. But so as you can see, resolutions now exists as a collection in our database. Although we didn't do anything with the form to make that happen. It was really the new Mongo collection that made that happen. Okay, so now what we need is a on submit, because what you're going to do is you're going to type in this form, you're going to hit enter, and this data needs to do something. Now let's go ahead and come in here and we can say on submit, and we'll pass this in equals, and the equals is going to be 2 brackets. So for this on submit, we're equaling to, and whenever you use brackets inside of JSX, it's sort of saying like, hey, this is JavaScript. So although you're using XML, HTML here, if you see 2 brackets, it means that it's actually going to be sort of straight JavaScript. So what we want to do is say this dot add resolution, and now we need to type dot bind, and then inside of quotes, this. So we're going to be passing this into add resolution. Let's come back and save this. Now you might be wondering, well, what is this add resolution function? Does this exist? No, it doesn't currently exist in our application at all. But how do we have access to that? Well, in our component here, underneath our initial creation of our component, but above the render function, you can create your own functions here, such as add resolution with parentheses like that. And this is now going to be referred to as this dot add resolution. Now, let's go ahead and first pass in here event, and let's say event dot prevent default. Now, event.prevent default is going to stop this page from reloading every single time we hit enter. Obviously, we don't on our application when it submits a form to reload the page, which is the default functionality for a form. So now we can say console.log, and inside of here, let's console log this. Okay, so let's head back to our application. Let's come in here. Let's type some stuff in here. It doesn't really matter, and let's hit enter. Now you'll see, not only did the page not refresh, but we now have something output on our console. If we open this up, we have an object. Now, in case you didn't know, this at this point refers to the entire component. And if you remember, we defined our ref as resolutions. And you'll see inside of this object, which is this, is refs. If we open this up, you'll see refs resolution. Resolution.input, and if we open this up, we can see if we scroll down, let's keep scrolling down, we'll see eventually value, which is the actual text that we had input here. Now, to make sure we remove any sort of a break space and stuff like that, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to trim this value, but we can come in through this entire object here, which if you remember was this, then .refs, .resolution, .value. So let's go ahead and in here we can say var text is equal to this .refs, .resolution, .value, and then we can say .trim. Now, trim is basically just going to remove any of the break space. So now let's go ahead and console log text to make sure that this is all working correctly and we're grabbing the correct text from this box. So now when we come to our page, we can type in here and hit enter, and you can see, let's type hello, enter. Every time we hit it, we're getting that console log. Now, because we have the insecure and auto-publish packages in here, we can submit things to our database directly from client side. Now, obviously, this isn't something you're going to want to do in production, but for prototyping in this example, it's going to be really nice. All we have to do is say resolutions.insert, and then we can have parentheses, brackets. Inside of these brackets is an object. Now this object is going to be the fields of our database entry. So for instance, let's say our resolutions text is going to be equal to text, right? So it's going to be equal to whatever is in the text box. Now in addition, I'm going to have a complete, as in this resolution is incomplete, so it's going to be default to set to false. We'll be able to update that later, and created at is going to be equal to new date, which is just a date function here, which is going to pull in today's date, the current moment right now. So as you can see, resolutions.insert, text complete, okay. So now we should be able to actually insert something into our database. Now this should be auto reloaded here, so let's actually try to do this. Keep an eye down here on resolutions, and let's say finish React Meteor series, enter. Now boom, even though it's console logging here, because we didn't remove that console log, we'll now see we have one record in our Mongo, which is our database, and beautiful, we now have text, complete false, created at, and it has an ID. Now we can't access this data yet, for reasons that are going to be a little bit confusing right now, but really React and Meteor need a nice way to talk, and that's where Tracker React comes in. So that is going to be the topic of the next video, is getting our data out of our database. But for right now, let's actually check out one more small issue. After we added this in here, finish.react.meteor series whatever is still in the text box. Obviously, if we're adding resolutions, you don't want that text to remain in the text box after you've submitted. So let's head back. Let's say this whole little bit here, let's get rid of the trim part. So this .refs.resolution.value, and let's set this to an empty string, so just a totally empty string. And I'm going to get rid of this console log text just because we don't need it at this point. So as you can see, our total add resolution function here, we're going to be clicking it, we're passing an event, we're saying, hey, don't reload this form. We're going to be grabbing the data from the form, trimming it, then inserting it into our database, and then setting it to blank. So let's try it. Let's add a new thing. Let's pull open Command M, because it looks like we have two resolutions in here. Looks like I accidentally entered a blank one. So let's go ahead. So let's minimize this, and we'll be looking for number 3, which will be finish React Native next level series. Enter. And now we have 3. It's cleared our input box back to normal, and we can add another one like dance in my office, which is something that I don't need to be told to do. And as you can see, I now have 4 resolutions. And everything saved into our database. Perfect. We now have a form. We have a connection to the Mongo database. And we wrote a lot of new things for the first time. For instance, our form, we now have an onSubmit where we're passing in this add resolution and we're binding this. If you don't bind this, you won't have access to the correct this. And then we have our input, and we've used ref for the first time. And everything else other than like that should be basic HTML like you're used to. Cool, so in the next video, we're going to be working hard to get this data to output. Then after we get that going, we're going to get working on adding our styles, thinking in sort of how you build components as a React application and how that's sort of different from templates in a Blaze website or even like an Angular website. And then we're going to talk a little bit about project structure. We're going to learn how to update our resolutions. We're going to add some deletes and stuff like that. We're going to get into some fancier JSX stuff, error messages, deploying. We're going to remove those prototyping packages. Really, this series is going to get you off the ground with Meteor and React. So as always, if you want these videos before they're released, head to store.leveluptutorials.com, subscribe to be a Level Up Pro, or purchase the series for digital download and get access to the special server-side rendering video that only exists through the downloadable package. In addition, there's also going to be exclusive download-only videos that show you how to deploy this application on a DigitalOcean droplet. So between all that, there's going to be some really nice extra content if you want to purchase this series and help support the creation of these free tutorials on YouTube. As always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.